Hey everyone, Chris here, and welcome to another AV conversation. I'm here with Michael Hassett, Managing Director of the Technical Direction Company, better known as TDC. Ostensibly, we're here to mark the start of the Vivid Festival in Sydney. Welcome, Michael.
Hey Chris, good to be here.
Could you just give people a sense of the scale and scope of preparing for Vivid from your perspective?
Yeah, sure thing. Well, Vivid does essentially take us 12 months to prepare and deliver. Um, Give you a little idea there that this year we have in excess of 110 projectors, various quantities of and resolutions of LED. I think there's a total of 27 sites that we are working on. So it's certainly the biggest for us in over our 10-year period, 10-year history of working on Vivid, which started off fairly modestly and grew year on year on year. With that growth, I guess, we developed the processes more gradually to be able to, deal with 2022. Initially, a lot of the work is done around the design. How would the projectors get laid out? Talking with the people who are doing the content to give them the right specifications and codecs for the content to be played back. Then there's just moving into normal sort of operational things of how are we going to get what we've got here to where we need to in the appropriate times. Then of course putting together the crew, and as we come to about 2 months out, we start the physical preparation. Now, that involves quite an array of works. Firstly, it's bringing out all of the projectors, making sure that they're all in tip-top condition, assigning them IP addresses, making sure that the lenses are all great and cleaned and suitable for purpose. Everything is actually tested in the warehouse. Media servers are connected to the projectors they're going to talk to. Cabling, which these days is dominantly fibre. There'd still be a little bit of copper used, but not a great deal anymore. And the general system design is polished up during that preparation period.
So when Vivid launched, Michael, it was a bit of a big reveal to the general public about what visual technologies could achieve, from an artistic standpoint. And I guess at the time it also was a proving ground for you and your team. It maybe took you places that you didn't generally go with your technology. Is that still the case, or was it ever the case?
Well, look, it certainly is always a challenge. Now, you always learn from the past. We analyze what we did last time. We compare it to what's being requested of us this year. What are the factors that have changed? There's a whole range of things that need to be considered, that always do throw that challenge into things. I mean, for example, Customs House. I think we've done that at least 8 times in the last 10 years just for Vivid Sydney, and probably another 8 times for other things. And I don't think that we've done it identically from one year to the next. There's always some slight change to a design. There's a technology that changes. the projectors have developed over the last decade, and not only have they become brighter, they've become more compact, and particularly over the last few years with the addition of laser light sources over lamp base, that has made a huge difference. The efficiency of those devices is quite incredible. Last year, Barco brought out this fabulous little UDM projector. I call it little, but it is a 22,000 lumen. But that's pretty much to us bread and butter kind of size of projector. And not only is it more compact, brighter, it runs quieter, it's cooler, and it uses about 40% less power. So we've now got a 22,000 lumen projector that can operate on a regular 10 amp outlet. Now, it may not seem a big thing, but we do have to consider the whole voltage, current, particularly the current side of things. If you have a number of 16 or 20 amp projectors versus running a number of 10, obviously you can get 50 to 100% more devices on the same power outlet. And I certainly think that being considerate of the amount of power that's being used is something that really has to be considered these days.
So what are the typical head scratches for your team when an artistic talent comes at you with something challenging? Like but I guess it's wrapped up, isn't it? Sort of, if you've got smaller and brighter projectors, it allows you more flexibility, allows you to get to places maybe you couldn't before. But what are some of the head scratches?
Well, that's true that we do have the ability to be more flexible. The challenges are not necessarily thrown up by the artists, but by DNSW themselves in the desire to operate on a particular type of building. It's the physical aspects of, well, that's great, fantastic building, but where on earth are we going to project from? We've run out of sky hooks. I don't have any more of those to pop up over here. So what can we do? I suppose, again, projection technology and media server technology allows us to go on some previously, unexplored angles and positions for projection. Some of the other considerations are, last year we had a tower in position X, but now the council has gone along and put up a wall or a tree or something. So we've got to then redesign what we do to work within an ever-changing environment. So they're the more, I guess, head-scratching things.
Projection is, I guess, leading the charge at the moment to provide the general public truly immersive experiences. And we've seen some good ones even across the pandemic with the likes of Loom in Melbourne. And I'm guessing that this is only going to become more common. What's your take, I guess, on the world of immersive AV experiences and what expertise you have and what gear you've got in the shed to produce that?
Right. Well, if we look outside just pure projection, obviously LED comes into play. Generally, this type of work has been steadily increasing. We're talking to people about other one-day or weekend light festivals in towns such as Shepparton. We certainly get involved in Melbourne, Brisbane. There certainly is an expansion of the, let's just call it the light festival type of work. But it doesn't all revolve around video projection. We have a significant amount of LED this year on Vivid. There is actually a fairly immersive space on its own. It's called Vivid House, and that's down at it's in Darling Harbour, and that is a very large box-shaped room. People will enter into it. There is high-res LED all around all four walls. We have projection on the floor, and there's a sound system that is just unbelievable. There's, 100 speakers in there. It's probably not that many, but there's an awful lot, and it is about this very directional sound as well. And one of the challenges in that was building the structure to allow not only the LED walls to be incorporated, but the projection, the huge amount of speakers in the roof, in the floor, and there were 5 artists involved in this content, and I believe they all came out of the UTS. The specific area they're from, I'm not entirely sure, but it was really good to see students involved. And this is something that, not only I, but a lot of people within DNSW have over the years wanted to involve students in the design and the creation.
It's good to be largely out of the jaws of COVID, but it's also good to reflect on the lessons learned. You would have had a lot of time for reflection. What were some of the big things that came out of the COVID kind of debacle, decimation of the events industry for you?
Well, yeah, it certainly was the decimation of the events industry, because certainly within probably 7 days of the shutdown, and certainly probably around about 30 days prior, people were starting to get nervous. What's going on here? Events that we were booked on, and we had, in March, some significant events that we would normally work on, some very thumping big corporates, and they just dissolved. Certainly by the time we got to the end of March, we were looking down a loss of 90% of our business. And I think there was that confusion that everybody had, was, what are we going to do? Is this going to be, look, it's only going to be 6 weeks. So let's just, hunker down and, enjoy the break. But I think very soon that was obvious that it wasn't going to be something that was going to be over in a few weeks or a few months. I suppose in one way, we were very fortunate in that there was the term pivot, and what are you going to do? I guess, like a number of other companies that had loads of technology and also staff at a bit of a loose end, it was, let's develop a virtual space, and which we did, and that certainly was something that helped us along the way. And what we learned from that was that there's a possibility of this being something that people will normally want in the future. So leading from that, actually, we built a soundproofed, air-conditioned, a custom studio space with or call it a virtual space with a LED screen, wall, XR stage, and a ceiling. And attached to it is a full broadcast control room. So we can do a fairly complex broadcast event out of there as well. So we've been doing things such as feature films, quite a few television commercials, product launches, because we can fit a big Land Cruiser style vehicle in there. I suppose some of the real learnings out of this were surprising, that something like this could shut down the planet. Trying to be a little bit flexible, and to, I guess, there were times during that, certainly the early months, where I was thinking, what's the point? Do we just close the doors and move on? I had to consider the staff, all of the people that work with me, for me, who have then their families. All of those things are going through your mind as an owner and employer. Is how can I protect not only the business but all the people who are involved? And the people are the important thing of a business. Is something, I guess, I learnt more about that. It was, it's great, we can have all this stuff, but if we don't have people, we're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, and is that the enduring permanent impact of COVID? Is the loss of trained and the IP, the smarts, the human resources that have been sucked out of the industry?
That certainly is the ongoing thing. We didn't lose too many of our full-time staff. The biggest loss was within those freelancers that were working with us. Those guys who we were really trying to give as much work as we possibly could, but clearly they had to find other ways of surviving, and try to, I guess, live on $1,500 a fortnight was not really, although fantastic and a great initiative, but not so easy for a family to live on. So losing those people, those skills, and those resources has really, hit us in the face squarely here. I don't know where I don't know where they've all gone. I know where some of them have gone, and some have gone into completely different industries. But what amazes me is that we talk about the skills shortage in the event industry. People in hospitality and hotels go, well, we haven't got any people. Truck drivers, we're short on taxi drivers. It seems to be across the board. And I just wonder, well, where did they go? And is this a fact that because we don't have, those guest workers, not the holiday makers, but the students who will, come to Australia on working visas, or the ability for people with skills to come and work temporarily here? Is it because that resource is not here anymore that we're suffering so much? We've had to learn to say no. I've probably said no to more work over the last 6 months than I had in the previous 40 years. It really is just the case that we're having people are coming to us with very short time frames, with fairly significant demands, and also with not great budgets. So, we're sort of hit from all sides, where our costs are going up, budgets are flattening or declining, and the period of time that we have to work or develop these projects is diminishing. And so rather than risking I found that it's better just to say, look, I'm sorry, I can't help you on this situation because I've got something else that, I've got to really look after. And, that seems to be the way of the future.
What are you, that's all kind of quite sobering, and it's important to talk about, but what are you looking forward to?
Retirement? No. Well, I'd look forward to shaking this COVID problem, because, all right, so we've got that problem of resources. One of the things that are a real stumbling block for us right now is we don't have many people, but tomorrow we will lose one or two people in the team who have come across COVID. Now, I suppose one of the benefits is that we've gone to a 7-day period that people have to rest and keep away from work for, as opposed to the 14 days. We've got all our team that work on Vivid, they test every single day. And I would say that, we lose a person here and there. I would say a month ago it would have been probably 10% of the workforce we lose. And that's a real problem, that we can't rely on people taking care of themselves, being cautious, being tested. That means we're going to see them the next day. It just, you never know what's going to happen from one day to the next. So not knowing whether you're going to have that, workforce available tomorrow, and then the logistical impacts on that. So I'm really looking forward to those days, being over. I suppose to return to a degree of normality. But I think this is still going to take us quite some time. I think it's going to be, I think, the end of 23 before we're reset, before people get back into the rhythm, being confident that they're able to, carry out an event in a certain time frame. They're going to get the audience, the people who are involved are going to be able to attend. And I guess that's what I look forward to, is getting back to what the way things were.